So this is super interesting. Obviously, when we did the workshop, I was like, like I've been doing a lot of spiritual work for a long time, and I would always get called, like, be referenced as an elder. And I'm like, you guys make me feel like I'm old. And they're like, no, it's like you carry this grandmother energy, like this, like grandmother spirit. And so it's super interesting to me now as I'm connecting the dots backwards, like the whole thing about my energy and who I associate with. Like I can be in a room and instantly know where I'm going to go and where I'm not. Right. And so it always caused issues with like my partner because he's not as intuitive into his energy, whatever. And so anytime I'd be somewhere and I'd be like, I want to go home, or like, I don't want to be here, or I don't want to be around that person, or like I'd meet someone and I'd be like, ooh, I don't know. And he'd always say like, why are you so judgy? And I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. It's just where I feel my energy gets like a red flag, or, I'm drained. And so much of this makes now so much more sense.
Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello, Rebels, and welcome back to this week's episode of Chingona Revolution podcast. We are doing something a little bit different on the podcast today. As you may have heard me speak of in other episodes, maybe you haven't based on when this is going out, but I've been pretty obsessed with something called human design lately. Human design is nothing more than your energetic blueprint. It's based on the teachings of Western astrology, the chakra system, quantum physics, I Ching, and more. So it's kind of like modern systems, but also ancient kind of wisdom as well. And it is one of these tools that really takes into consideration your birth time, your location, and kind of what was going on in the sky when you were born. It's pretty much a system for self-awareness. And it has completely transformed the way that I run my business. So I recently introduced this to my group program and everybody absolutely loved the workshop. So I figured that we could bring on a couple of special guests so that I could do a quick human design reading for them. And then we can also talk about how they're utilizing human design for their courage project, how they can use human design to determine how to be productive, as well as how to make decisions and whatnot. So we have two amazing courage-driven Latinas. We have Arlin Perez, and I will let you introduce yourself in just one second. And we also have Angelina Hernandez. So Arlin, can you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do, where you're located, and then your courage project, please.
Okay, yes. So my name is Arlin Perez. I am a photographer from the DFW area in Texas. I currently I'm trying to specialize in gearing more towards doing boudoir sessions, just empowering women feel comfortable in their skin. But I also do offer maternity sessions, family sessions, engagement sessions. And what was the other question?
What's your courage project?
Yes, working on self-coaching to help me make better decisions, or just help me make decisions because I really doubt myself a lot. So that's my courage project.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we'll go to Lina. Can you please tell us where you're located, what, like a little intro, what you do, and then what your courage project is?
Okay, so I am in Livermore, California, which is like East Bay, and we're in between, like, I feel like everything, the Central Valley, San Jose, San Francisco. And I am an empowerment and life coach for Latinas. I've been working mostly with one-on-one clients. And my courage project is to grow that and scale it to do group coaching. Yeah.
Amazing. And you have an incredible event coming up at the end of June. So we'll have you talk about that before the episode is over as well.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Helena, we'll start with your human design chart. So I'm looking at it right now. And I'm just going to kind of speak based on what I see on this chart. And for those of you listening, we all just, as I mentioned earlier, we did a human design workshop where I went through all of the different energy types, as well as the different strategies, as well as how to listen to your intuition and how do you know when you're in alignment and how do you know when you're out of alignment. So these girls have already kind of been through it, but they haven't had an actual reading. So that's what we're doing today. So Angelina, you are a projector. And as a projector, your purpose on this planet is essentially to guide. So you see things that other people don't necessarily see. And that is what makes you a really good leader. Like coaches, counselors, educators, a lot of them tend to be projectors. I also want to be really clear that just because you're a projector doesn't mean you can't do a different role. Or if you are a different energy type, that means you can't be a guide or can't be a counselor. That's not true at all, because every single energy type can do any career they want and kind of fulfill any purpose that they want, except that the way that you do it is going to be different because we have different strengths that kind of come easy to us. So as a projector, you're about 20% of the population. And as you know, I'm also a projector. So it differs from other energy types because of our lack of consistent inner energy. So have you noticed that some days you're super motivated and other days it's really hard for you to be productive?
I feel like that's my entire life.
But you know what's so crazy? Like being Latinas, where we value hard work so much, I feel like it's difficult because it literally contradicts what our culture has taught us as, work ethic is so important. And then here we are looking at your energy type and I'm telling you like, hey, you're supposed to have this inconsistent energy and that's totally okay. So I mean, at least when I learned about it, it was almost this relief like, oh, I'm not supposed to be productive every single day. So how does it land for you?
So this is super interesting. Obviously, when we did the workshop, I was like, I've been doing a lot of spiritual work for a long time, and I would always get called, like, be referenced as an elder. And I'm like, you guys make me feel like I'm old. And they're like, no, it's like you carry this grandmother energy, like this, like grandmother spirit. And so it's super interesting to me now as I'm connecting the dots backwards, like the whole thing about my energy and who I associate with. Like I can be in a room and instantly know where I'm going to go and where I'm not. Right. And so it always caused issues with like my partner because he's not as intuitive into his energy, whatever. And so anytime I'd be somewhere and I'd be like, I want to go home, or like, I don't want to be here, or I don't want to be around that person, or like I'd meet someone and I'd be like, ooh, I don't know. And he'd always say like, why are you so judgy? And I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. It's just where I feel my energy gets like a red flag, or, I'm drained. And so much of this makes now so much more sense.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so as projectors, not only are you just naturally very wise, but you're also very sensitive to other people's energy. And so we can see things that we can't always explain why we know or how we know something, but we just know, especially because you're a 2-4, which we'll get into that in just a second. So I think what we'll do, instead of doing the whole reading for you, I think I'll switch off. So now I'll go to Arlin. So Arlin, for you, you are a manifesting generator and also known as a Manny Gen. So you actually have a lot of energy, and maybe it's not super consistent every single day, but have you ever noticed that you are actually really good at finding shortcuts to things? Or like maybe when you were in school, like you were able to get things done, or maybe chores at home, like you were able to get things done in a shortcutty way. And you hold both manifestor qualities, which is a different energy type, as well as generator characteristics. And so it kind of makes you this like really interesting energy type where you not only have all this energy, but you also can kind of speak things into existence as well. And again, that doesn't mean that other people can't manifest. It doesn't mean other people can't get things done. But for you as a manifesting generator, you tend to find joy in trying new things and squeezing the most out of life. And you're also really known to be a multi-passionate individual. So like if we were trying to put you in a box and said, okay, you have to pick one purpose right now for the rest of your life, you'd be miserable. And I kind of see this already through your photography business where you don't just focus on one type. And if you were not a manifesting generator, I think the coaching I'd give you would be a little bit different. But because you are this person that has probably tried on a bunch of different career paths, who probably has different friend groups, who likes all this diversity, and you, again, like squeezing the most out of life. So does this resonate with you?
Yes, it does. It's funny because recently my sister, she's like, "Oh my gosh, Arlene, I never know what your next move is going to be. Like you're so unpredictable." But yeah, it does. And as far as I have a lot of energy, I feel like a lot of my energy is drained because I'm an overthinker sometimes. So that gets drained a lot. A lot of my energy gets drained because of that. But yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of it's probably because the people around you don't understand you. So it makes you question yourself.
Yes.
That probably could be it as well. So just to give you all some ideas of other people that are like your energy type. So Arlene, another like a famous manifesting generator is Rihanna. And Rihanna, as we know, started off as first with her singing career and then started makeup brand and then started a lingerie brand. And she's now this like amazing businesswoman that has these different streams of income. And a famous projector, there's a lot of them, but the first one that comes to mind is Jay Shetty. As we know, he has like one of the most popular podcasts. Definitely. He was a monk. He's the author of Think Like a Monk. And then another person who's a projector, I think, is Sahara Rose, also kind of in the same, is it Sahara? It's Sahara Rose. So she's the one of the host of the Higher Self podcast, but those are a couple of projectors. So let's go ahead and move on to the next part of your charts. And Angelina, I'll start with you again. So your strategy, in other words, your strategy is like how you know when to take action and the way that you take action in life. It is to wait for the invitation. And I remember because I'm the same one because I'm also a projector. When I heard about wait for the invitation, I was like, oh, hell no. I don't want to wait for somebody to like invite me to do something or give me permission. And that's actually not necessarily the case. So the thing that happens with projectors is that, and I know your energy type very well because it's my own energy type, but as projectors, because we can see things other people can't see and we naturally want to guide and help people, it is not unlike us to go and give unsolicited advice that's coming from a really good place. So imagine, somebody's like kind of venting about something and you're like, oh, well, I see the solution right now. Or, I know exactly how you can go about this. And you, with your good intentions, go and give them this unsolicited advice. And then they feel kind of like shut down maybe. So because we see things other people don't see, we almost need their permission before we go and take the action. So this is why waiting for the invitation is important. So for example, both of you have signed on to work with me. If I gave you coaching, imagine if I walked up to you in the street and I gave you coaching the way I do during our coaching calls inside of Courage Driven Latina. You'd be like, who the heck is this crazy person? But I essentially was invited to be your coach when you signed up for the program. So that is a good example of waiting for the invitation. Just because and then the thing is, as a projector, if you go and give somebody, what you think is great advice and they don't really receive it, then we feel really crappy because we're like, damn, like I was trying to help this person. And by waiting for the invitation, we ensure that we aren't giving our energy, our very limited energy, to people who aren't ready for it, or the people who may not want to hear it. And a lot of times it's just people aren't ready. So when we think about waiting for the invitation, this could be an invitation from a partner, from a colleague, from different people. But when it comes to moving, starting a business, anything that has to do with you, the invitation only has to come from your intuition. You do not have to wait for someone else. So how does that land for you?
So I feel like when I think back of like career-wise, it's like you having that ability to use your voice and make decisions. And then also being a Latina where you're like raised, to not make waves and to follow the rules and like, the typical stuff. like, I wish I would have known this information like so much sooner, because I could have changed the trajectory, or have the awareness, not change, but like have the awareness to shift things that probably would have helped me, career wise, probably move a little bit forward quicker. But in sense of like family relationships and things like that, it's kind of like what you said, right? Like people naturally will come to me and say, hey, like, what do you think about this experience? And before, if people would just like tell me their story, I'd be like, oh, you should do this and do this. But now, because I've done this work, I'm like, oh, they're not really, I need to make sure I'm asking if you want me to respond. Like, do you want me to respond, or are you just wanting me to listen?
Exactly. Yeah. So a good tip for you, which like you're already doing, but the thing I've started to, obviously, if I'm talking to a client, I know that you all want feedback, but if I'm talking to a friend or a family member, then I listen to what they're saying and I say, like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Would you like to vent, or are you looking for my advice? And just kind of give them the option. Because sometimes we just want to vent. Because I've even done this with some of my friends where I'm just kind of like venting because I'm like in a shitty situation. And then they're like, well, there's nothing you can do about it, so stop worrying about it. And then I've even learned to be like, I was just venting, but thank you for pointing out, for pointing this out. So yes, definitely. I've been on like the receiving end of a projector, and I've been the projector that's like projecting onto someone else. So, and then your recent job, weren't you invited to apply? Isn't that crazy how it works?
Yeah, I was totally invited. And the crazy thing is, like, I was in my mind asking myself, having this conversation, should I go back? Like, and then, there's the resistance. And then someone presented this opportunity. I'm like, okay, let me do this. Right. And so,
yeah. Exactly. So I realized that I didn't do this as we talked about your energy types, but I wanted to give you all advice specifically for your courage project and overall business and life when it comes to the way that your human design chart works. So for you, Angelina, as a projector, I think that you should allow yourself to rest when you feel like you need rest. And whenever you are feeling inspired to work, because in those moments when you feel inspired to work, you're actually going to get more done in a short period of time than you would if you were forcing yourself to work for 3 days straight. So I actually have a private client who's also a projector, and she was telling me, she's like, I did nothing over like the long weekend. And she's like, I only worked on one of the days. And then I was like, well, what did you do? And she tells me everything she did. And I was like, that sounds like a very productive weekend. You got a lot done. But she was equating the amount of hours worked to productivity. And as a projector, we cannot do that. So it will not be uncommon for you to work 1 hour at a time and get things done that maybe it would take a different energy type 5 hours to do. But you do have to honor the rest, because when your cup isn't full of rest, it's hard for those ideas to come. And then I think for waiting for the invitation, when it comes to things like speaking engagements or when it comes to collabs, see which invitation feels right to you and take the one that feels right. And then Arlin, for you.
I was just going to say, like, so like every day, right? Like I sit with myself and I do like a little card pull for myself of just like where I want to focus my energy for the day. And I consistently get the card of like to play. And it's just like, oh, I have to be very mindful of that, because especially when you're in a circle, I have like, because I'm in this space and I hang out with other like badass Latinas who are also boss babes and doing their own stuff. And then it's like, it's hard to not compare yourself to, because they're like, oh, I'm like doing content this weekend. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to chill. And I'm just like, should I be doing something else? So like that part I need to remember and be more vigilant about that for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you were in the same, let's say that you worked at a co-working space and Arlin was at the same co-working space, you'd probably be looking at her like, how can she do so much? Like, how is she still going? Because she's a different energy type. And remember, you, Angelina, we are 20% of the population. So we live in a population where most people are generators or manifesting generators, and they are the doers of society. So and we typically try to operate like them, but that's exactly how we burn ourselves out.
Yeah.
So for you, Arlin, as a manifesting generator, I think some of the tips that I have for you when it comes to just your life and business is listen to yourself. Other people are going to tell you to focus on one thing, especially, like within marketing, like niche down. And it's like, yes, you can you can niche down with like the type of people that you work with if you'd like, but you are meant to explore. You're going to feel really boxed in if you don't. So really allowing yourself to follow the things that light you up and that bring you joy, because as a manifesting generator, you're also very magnetic to your clients and to the people around you when you are living in alignment. And so the advice for you is essentially, don't put yourself in a box, because that's not what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to have your hands in different things. Maybe, you do focus on like, okay, today I'm focusing on this thing, and tomorrow I'm going to focus on that thing. What I have also told other manifesting generator clients is like when they're trying to do a bunch of things that feel separate, I'm like, okay, well, why don't we find a focus for your courage project? But when it comes to your hobbies and your life, you allow yourself to explore all of the other hobbies, because that's what's going to make you feel alive and more magnetic. So for you, your strategy, the way that you take action is to respond and to inform. So to respond means whenever there's an issue that has happened, you're probably one of the first people to quickly respond and try to find a solution or try to step in and help. Or, when somebody has asked you a question, it's a lot easier for you to respond rather than if you're just like put up on a stage and just told to talk. So you really thrive when you respond. But it's also important for you to inform others. You earlier commented and said that your sister was saying, I never know like what you're up to or what's coming up next. It's really because you go so fast. Not only do you like respond to things as they come up, but you also are to inform. So the way that works is like just letting anybody who could possibly be impacted by the actions you're taking, like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be starting to do this. I'm not going to be available this weekend and this weekend. I know we've been hanging out every weekend, but I'm fully booked now. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Tell me if the responding resonates with you. Are you usually the one that is like the problem solver and you just respond to, is that how you take action?
Yes, usually. I mean, when people come to me with like questions or anything like that, I'm always like, I feel like I need to find a response for them, like a solution or something. If not, I'm not like comfortable. So yeah.
Yeah. And do people in your life ever feel like lost when it comes to what's going on for you?
I don't know. It's not like I'm always hanging out around people. I'm not always around people. So it's just like,
Oh, it's because you're also a number 2, which is the hermit. So you're both the
yeah.
hermit. Yeah, which means you like your alone
Yes.
time. Yeah, no, totally. So I would just be what's so funny? Like I started learning about human design and I told you all at the workshop, take what serves you and leave what doesn't, because not everything is going to make sense. But what I learned was that the more I knew about human design and then I started to live my life, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I hadn't noticed this about me before, but now that I know about human design, sometimes things can just click later. So be mindful of that strategy of to inform and see if it resonates with like the more that you kind of just keep people up to date with what you're doing. Or even if you're like, oh, I'm going to spend some alone time, just like, hey, I'm going to like focus on self-care, telling like your family or your friends and just kind of keeping them up to date instead of just ghosting them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So let's see, what else do I want to look at from your charts? Let's take a look at when you're in alignment and when you are not in alignment. So when you are in alignment as a manifesting generator, Arlin, you have a feeling of satisfaction and peace. So satisfaction and peace can really just feel like ease. It can just feel like, oh yeah, we've got this. So maybe whenever you are constantly booking clients or after a successful photo shoot, you probably feel like, oh, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. And whenever you are not in alignment and maybe when things aren't necessarily going your way, you feel frustration. So maybe people are late to their photo shoot or something went wrong that you didn't fully expect to happen. Maybe something was messed up in the plans. It's not like you're angry, but you tend to feel frustrated. Does that feel accurate for you?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. And remember, your not self theme or the feeling of being unaligned, there's nothing bad with it. But the reason that we even bring it up is so that oh, I'm feeling frustrated right now. This means I'm out of alignment. What do I need to change here? Because this is nothing more than information for me to make a change so that I could get closer to that feeling of satisfaction and to peace. And it's not a bad thing to feel frustration. It's not a bad thing to feel out of alignment, because we do need to get out of alignment in order to recognize more of what we want, more of what we don't want, and get back in alignment, which for you would be a feeling of satisfaction and peace. So even when it comes to you making decisions, I would like think about the two decisions and see which one you feel closer to. Like, oh, is making this decision going to feel frustrating, or is it going to feel like satisfaction and peace? And really sit with it. And I think you might be, are you a sacral? We'll get into intuition in a second, but I was looking at Angelina's chart. Yeah, you are a sacral, meaning you feel things in your gut. Oh, and you're waiting for clarity. So both. Okay, cool. You have a really cool chart. So especially with you and your courage project being around like trusting yourself to make decisions, I would really look at that. And then one of a great exercise for you would actually be think about past decisions that you've made and just bring to mind, did I feel satisfied and at peace, or did I feel frustrated? And did you feel it in your gut? And then based on the decision that you made, like kind of just recap, like, oh, was that the decision that did feel in alignment for me? Or did I not listen to my intuition and did I go the other way? And just start to look for evidence that you can make good decisions. And then even look for evidence whenever the decisions that maybe weren't the best decisions happened and what you can learn from them.
Okay.
That would be a good exercise for you. Cool. Angelina, so for you as a projector, when you are in alignment, you are going to feel success. Like things are just falling into place for you. Like things are really working out. Whenever you are not in alignment, you're not going to be angry. You're not going to be frustrated. You're going to feel bitter. So if you're ever in a situation where you feel unheard, unseen, unvalidated, or ignored, you do not even want to be in that space, and it will come out in a form of bitterness. And I think I actually recently learned that my one of my like nieces and nephews, one of them is, I can't remember which one was a projector right now, but I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because if I give one of them a little bit more attention, the other one is just immediately not angry, but bitter and like very sentido and very like butthurt. So, and I see this in myself as well, where if I'm ever in a space where I don't feel like appreciated or desired, I don't want to be there. And it makes me feel pretty bitter to be in this space where I'm unrecognized. So does that resonate with you? Success and bitterness?
Yeah, I think ultimately that whole feeling is what pushed me to just leave my whole 9 to 5 and become like a full-time entrepreneur. And it was like, I was already doing the job of a manager, and then the manager left. And when the position was going to be refilled, I was told like, oh, like you're going to get it, blah, 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 blah. And then I didn't even get an opportunity to interview for the position. So then I was like, what in the, and I'm like, I am not going to continue to put myself in the place where like, one, I'm not valued, two. But that is also really hard. If you have like a significant other or a partner, like, that lack of understanding of like, I'm not going to be here. And they're like, but it's a job, so then I'm always constantly like explaining myself of like why I just can't be in a place like that. And so I'm just like, I'm so done with this. And that's kind of was like, I put a plan together to my exit plan, and luckily it all manifested and worked out the way it did. So totally.
Yeah. And then another job like fell in your lap that was way more aligned.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So have you ever looked up your partner's human design?
Not yet.
I bet you they're not yours.
Not yet.
They're probably not a projector.
No, he's not a projector. And he's like a Libra, like total, like just chill. Like, he doesn't like to be like, we don't argue or whatever. We don't really have any arguments, but at the same time, he's very like, you just have to find a job, and you just have to like stay there for 50 years and then you retire and then you'll have your thing. And I'm just like, that is depressing me right now. Yeah. So he's always like telling me like, you need to be more realistic. And I'm like, what does that even mean? But he's come a long way. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. And you'll keep proving he's going to be like, I don't know how she did this, but she did this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I just told him the day, I was like, I cannot wait for the day that I hand you over like this check that you just don't even like in this, you can't even see it yet. And he's like, I'm waiting for that day too.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Do you feel stuck in your life or business and aren't sure what's next for you? Do you feel like everyone seems to have things figured out, but you feel like you're missing something? I totally hear you. I was in your exact shoes just a few years ago, and this is why I've created my coaching programs. Courage Driven Latina is a 12-month group coaching program designed to help you take action on your courage project in just 90 days. Whether you're in the middle of a life transition, struggling with self-doubt, tired of starting and stopping a project, or feeling lonely in your goals and dreams, then this program is for you. A courage project can be starting a business, launching a podcast, starting your healing journey, or building the confidence to date after a divorce. No matter the project, my courage framework will help you overcome any obstacles and help you make your dreams a reality. Inside of Courage Driven Latina, you will build confidence, courage, and find a supportive community of driven women cheering you on every step of the way. Magnetic Mastermind is my advanced program for women entrepreneurs and leaders. This program is for those of you who have already started but are ready to grow without the hustle. You'll improve your strategy, spirituality, and self. You'll use my magnetic framework to attract, not chase, dream clients and opportunities. Remember, you are the creator of your reality. Don't let procrastination hold you back any longer. Go to theericacruz.com, that's Erica with a K, under Work With Me. It's also linked down below in the show notes where you can learn more about these programs, you can join the waitlist, and you will be the first to know when we open the doors. I cannot wait to work with you. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, so that was, let's go to intuition. So that was what did I just read? Oh, the out of alignment. There we go. I'm looking at your chart and now I just want to like say things, but I'm like trying to ensure that we do both yours and then Arlin. So let's talk about your intuition, like how you make decisions. So your authority is what it's called. Your intuition is all about waiting for clarity. Hold on. Sorry, I keep doing this. I'm looking at the wrongs. Wait, you're both wait for clarity. Okay, this is going to be easy peasy. All right, so both of you have the same intuition, and not everybody's intuition speaks to them like this. Arlin, you do have your sacral chakra on your chart filled in, which also tells me that you probably can feel things in your gut in ways that other people can't. So I would say whenever you are looking to make a decision as to whether it's the right one for you or not, really pay attention to your gut. If you feel like you were just punched in the stomach or nauseous or like you want to throw up, it's probably a no. But if you feel maybe excitement, maybe like butterflies in your stomach, then it's probably a yes. So like, let's say you get an opportunity to do a photo shoot and it's something you've never done before and you're like, I don't know, really like tune in and listen to what your gut is saying, just because that center is filled in on your chart. But according to your chart, it's also wait for clarity. So I'm going to tell you what wait for clarity means since the both of you have this one. This is also known as the emotional authority. And with emotional authority, time is your best friend. So you make decisions whenever your emotions are at ease. So if you give yourself time, making a decision will have you feeling less regretful. So Arlin, for you, I would say listen to what your natural gut is telling you in that moment and then give yourself clarity and then kind of compare and see if they match up. But for you, Angelina, I would say there's probably a lot of times in your job when you just wanted to pull the trigger and pull off the Band-Aid and impulsively quit in that moment. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think in every single job.
Yeah. So advice is give yourself time.
Yeah. Back to my partner who was like, why can't you ever just like a job? And I'm like, because I'm confined. I need to be free to fly. He was like,
it's because you're just making your own dream job. That's why. You were meant to be an entrepreneur this whole time and a healer for the community. So making a decision from a highly emotional place can leave you feeling regretful. So the correct opportunities, because sometimes we're like, oh, wait, but I have to make a decision right now. So a big thing to know is that the correct opportunities won't go away if you take a day to think about it. And usually it's like a day, right? It's kind of like the advice of sleep on it. It's the advice for you too. So, you know, that saying of like, lo que es quita, like really embody that, where I'm going to give myself the time and space that I need to really see if this is the right opportunity or not, and then make a decision. Okay, next I want to look at your profile. So the numbers that are on your profile. And mind you, I didn't have both of your charts until, well, I pulled up Arlin's right before we started this, and then I pulled yours again, Angelina. But I didn't know that you were both 2-4s. So we're going to talk about 2-4s. And as a 2-4, and for reference, I'm a 1-3. So maybe I'll just talk a little bit about what the 1-3 is, and then we'll talk about the 2-4s. So the first number is the one that we are typically very conscious of. And then the second number could be an unconscious number, or I'm sorry, an unconscious characteristic, but it's very obvious for other people to see within us. So since you both have 2-4, let's start off with 2, because that's the one that's your conscious one. And that one is the hermit. So you really do enjoy quality time with yourself. You really do enjoy some solitude. It doesn't mean you're not social at all, but it does mean that you value time with you, and you are naturally good at things, and you don't know how, you don't know why, but it just comes easy to you. And you have a naturally hermit type nature, and you thrive with that regular time alone. I want to say Oprah has this in her profile, if I'm remembering correctly. And then you also have a 4 in your profile. This is the unconscious one. 4 is the relationship builder and the influencer. So you're actually really gifted at building community and close relationships, and you're natural leaders. And I don't know why I included this piece in here, but you typically tend to date people who you were friends with first. I feel like, Angelina, did you mention this? Were you like, oh yeah, that was us?
Totally.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I never even it never, like, if you would have asked me, well, we've been together now 15 years, but like, if you would have asked me, I would have been like, heck no.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think when it comes to just like life advice or business advice with having this profile, it's ensuring that your schedule is going to have time for you to be with you. It's really easy to get busy as business owners with people who like care about their community, and you want to go and give to others, especially Arlin, for you being like the one who responds, like you're naturally going to want to give to people. And then Angelina, for you really having this business that you want to make your full-time job, and really like you're going to want to take every opportunity you can. But there's also a lot of benefit in spending that time alone to give yourself that time to be able to give back to others. And then as also just knowing that you really are here to build community and close relationships, and you are naturally a leader, even if you haven't always seen yourself that way, start to like just be conscious that you are a natural leader. So I think the last thing I wanted to cover, because obviously we could sit here and talk about human design all day. As you all know, I took a course on this, and this was like just as long as our program. So there's a lot to take from here. But the other thing that I did want to mention was just the arrows that are at the top of the chart. So typically when your arrows are facing to the left, that means that you like things a little bit more structured with a system. And then when things are facing to the right, you tend to be a little bit more flowy. And we live in this world where like everything kind of has structure. So let me quickly tell you what the arrows mean. So the top left arrow is all about your digestion. And this has to do not only with how you digest food, but also how you take in life. So both of you have an arrow that's facing to the left. So that shows me that you both probably like eating around the same time. You probably wouldn't have an issue eating like the same type of meal. And there's definitely some structure around the way that you like to intake information as well as food. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, totally. I could go into this. I'm just like, yes.
Your reaction, you were just like, oh my gosh, that's so me. Okay, so then we have your bottom left arrow, which is all about your environment. And this has to do with the environments that help you thrive. So environment could be your physical space, but it could also be your social media and even your mental space. And that was the bottom left arrow. Arlin, yours is pointing to the left, and Angelina, yours is also pointing to the left. So what that tells me is that you like to have an environment that is pretty structured. Like you probably like to work in the same area or the same place, and you just feel more at ease and like you could get more done whenever you are in an environment. Like you probably wouldn't be the two people who are just like living on the road out of a suitcase. Like you probably do like to have things in their place. Maybe when you go travel, you like to unpack and make it feel a little bit more homey. And that also shows me that whenever you're looking to be productive, be very mindful of the places that you spend time in. This doesn't mean that you can't go to a cafe and work, but what it does mean is you're probably going to want to keep visiting that cafe after you found one that you really like, and then maybe have like home office and then cafe. Does that resonate?
Yes, to me it does.
Okay. Yeah, you both have really structured. Actually, Angelina, all of your arrows are left, which is so interesting because this shows me that you actually really thrive with structure. And you really thrive with things like business plans, and you really thrive with planning, which whenever you told me that you created an exit plan, I was like, that makes so much sense because all of your arrows are left.
Yeah, and this is like really super interesting because, just being in the Courage Latina, and when I'm having conversations with people, I'm just going to say it, with people who don't get me or don't know maybe human design or what a projector is and all that. And I feel like I'm constantly having to explain myself. And I'm like, I really feel like I need a coaching program that gives me like a list. And it's like, okay, once you do this, then you move on to the next thing. And once you do this, and then and they're like, yeah, that's not how it works. Just like, why?
Yeah. And you should make the lists. Yeah. Because it's going to help you, while for other people, it can make them feel really boxed in.
Yeah.
This is why I love human design so much, because the way that I coach you knowing your human design is going to be different than the way I would coach somebody else.
Yeah.
So with your top right arrow, it is all about your awareness. So it has to do with how you think and how you process information. So again, Angelina, you're very structured with the way that you process information. And so are you, Arlin. You probably like reading your books from like chapter 1 until the end. You probably are like, it gives you anxiety to skip around. You're like, why are we not following the damn structure? While me, I am like, okay, let's just like look for the chapter that seems the most interesting and read that. And then we'll go back, and then we'll like, my stuff would probably drive you crazy. And then
that's giving me anxiety.
Okay, so the bottom right arrow is all about manifestation and how we manifest. So some people really thrive with being specific with how it is that they manifest, and other people thrive on just going off of the feeling. Like, this is kind of what I want. So for you, Angelina, I would say when it comes to this dream business of yours, be really specific. Like that check that you want to hand over to your partner, like, how much do you want that check to be? Like, what do you want the check to look like? Those kind of details. Or if you're manifesting like a new property, what are the floors going to look like? What's the color of the door? And really look at all of the little details. And vision boards obviously work really well for you because of this. And then Arlin, for you, yours is pointing to the right. So this means you are a non-specific manifester, meaning that you don't need to know the specifics of what your business is going to look like in 5 years, but you need to know how you want to feel. You need to know kind of what you want the vibe to be and the feeling that you want to have within your business or within your life, or especially for you with like your courage project being around trusting the decisions you make. How do you want to feel whenever you have made a decision that feels good? And really focusing on that and finding more evidence of that feeling. Does that resonate?
Yes, it does with me. I recently this is the first time that I make a vision board where a lot of the things that I put on there are coming true. And I was more focused on the feeling that I wanted or how I wanted to feel through what I was putting on there. So I was like, wow, this vision board thing really does work.
Yeah. And tapping into the feeling really makes it work even more for you. Angelina, have you ever manifested something that you were like, oh my gosh, this was exactly what I pictured it to look like? Or, oh my gosh, there's a white door and that's what I thought it would be like?
So I've manifested things, but by accident. It's so interesting. Like I'll say like, oh, it would be nice if, And then I focus on what I really want to manifest. And the thing that I didn't put that much focus and energy on is what manifests. Like the meetup group, right? It was like a thought. Like I moved
Yeah.
here, I didn't have anybody, no friends, no anything. And I'm like, it would be really cool if like I could have a community of Latinas. It was a thought. And then bam, like 7 years later, I have this group of like 500 women,
Yeah.
and I
So for
didn't
people
really.
who are local, what's the name of your meetup group and how can they find it?
It's on Meetup, the app, and it's called Latinas of the Bay. And yeah, we just get together, have fun, hang out, do all kinds of stuff.
Amazing. Cool. All right. So do either of you have any coaching questions?
I have one right now that I can think of. So in regards to like our Courage project, and just like as I think about business going forward, like how can we navigate being, the person that does all the things for our business right now, right? Like, I don't have an assistant yet. I don't have all these things. And not knowing I'm a projector to like not deplete myself and continue to feel motivated to do all of the things on my list.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think what would actually really benefit you is, especially because we know that all your arrows are facing left and you like structure, I would create your ideal business, like what you want it to look like, and then let that be like version 3 of your courage project. And then think about like, okay, well, if I was to take away some of this stuff, what would make this more simple and make that version 2 and almost kind of work backwards so that you have 3 versions of your business where maybe at this moment you don't want to go super hard on email marketing. Maybe all you want to do is talk to your meetup group and talk to your social media about your event that's coming up or about your group coaching that's coming up. So it would really, I would look at what's the one thing you can do that would make everything else easier in your business. Because there's a lot of nice to haves, but like, for example, do you already have a website?
I do.
Okay. Never mind, forget it. I was going to say that's a nice to have, but I don't think you need it yet. So,
And what's interesting is the reason why I did it was because I told myself, I'm going to do this so that I don't ever have to do this again.
yeah. And you can always update it, right? Because like your business will evolve as well.
Yeah.
So, but I would really look at like, what's the number one thing that is going to help my business right now? And that is revenue, because you can't have a business that doesn't make money. Right. Because the longer that you have a business that doesn't make money, the longer you have to stay, or enough money, I should say, the longer you would have to stay at a 9-to-5, which means it's taking more time away from your business. There's nothing wrong with having a 9-to-5. Nothing has gone wrong. I want to be really clear, but we really do want to look at where is it that I've already made money and how can I double down on that so that I can make enough income to make this business sustainable. And eventually I could go and support a bunch of other people because this is my full-time business.
Yeah.
So I'd ask yourself that and really look at it. And then just, when it comes to, but I would say the first hire you should probably have is a virtual assistant who can help you with the admin stuff once you have enough demand and clients so that they can help you with like onboarding, so they can help you with email management, because as a projector, you're really going to want to focus on the coaching part of things and maybe even on the like showing up at the events, but maybe you also hire temporary event coordinators whenever you're hosting events.
Okay. And then I have something else I want to ask about in regards to like, so now that I'm working on my Courage project and my event's coming up, when would you recommend I start talking about the group coaching? Do I wait until after my event or do I start talking about that now?
I would not confuse people and I would maybe bring it up at the event.
Okay.
Just because you already have this event that's going on and you have a lot going on just to prep for the event, that you don't want to confuse people. And your advice is different because I have a client who does a lot of events, but she does continued events and she also does coaching. So we've had to be really careful in her marketing with like when she promotes what. But at the events, like that should always be an opportunity to promote your group coaching, especially when we know events are super life-changing, but people leave and they go back to their life, right? So like if they want sustainable change, joining a group coaching program after you're attending your event is going to be really transformational.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Arlin, do you have any questions?
No, I was trying to think of something. between whenever you told me about this call and the actual call, but I
I
couldn't think of
know.
anything.
Okay, well, if it comes up, you can message me on Slack. But for those of you listening, Arlin and Angelina literally got like a couple hours notice for this. I was like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? My team and I were talking about the podcast schedule because I have upcoming travels coming up. And I was like, it'd be really cool to do a live human design reading. And I wanted two different energy types. And you two were the ones that just kind of popped into my head. So, Angelina, can you tell us a little bit about your event that's coming up? Who is it for? When is it? Like, how can people sign up? Give us like all the 411.
Thank you for giving me this platform and being able to share my event. So my event is called the Latina Self-Discovery Retreat, and it's basically a collection of all of the tools that I've gained from being on this self-healing journey for the past 10 years. And I've been working with medicine women, men and women, tapping back into like the ancestry of who I am, and that involves practicing curanderismo. And there's like a lot of like my own personal magic that I've been blending with just the coaching clients I've had one-on-one, and I've had them have like amazing results. And so now I'm like just ready to share it with the masses. And so I have this opportunity to have this live event. It's on June 24th in Livermore, wine country. It's like a super cute place. It's going to be 6 hours. One of the things that we're going to be doing is to open up our sacred circle. So I do everything from a perspective of a ceremony, a ritual, and I talk about why that's important, right? Because life is very sacred. And when we show up and we really just embody that sacredness, we start living in a different way. And so I'm going to be serving cacao, which is a sacred plant sacrament. I'm going to be sharing this cacao that's from Guatemala, from tribes in Guatemala. And that's how we'll start. And then we're going to be doing some, diving into our heart frequency. We're going to be having some sound healing. We're going to talk about the power of manifestation, using your sacral chakra for that. I'm going to have some guests that are going to be sharing like their experiences of working with me. And I think it's going to be a beautiful way to just finish out the rest of 2023, because it's crazy that we're like at the midway point, right? And I know I myself am working on a lot of goals before the end of the year. And so I thought this was like a perfect opportunity midway through the year, as people start exploring, being out, getting together after COVID, a great way to just kind of ease into that, get to know who they are at the core level, and just start embodying their own version of bliss.
I love it. Okay, well, we will be sure to put your website link down below, as well as your Instagram, so people can secure their spot for your event. And Arlin, we also will put your links down below. Tell us a little bit more about your photography services, and we'll be sure to link everything down below, like I said.
Okay, so I'm going to focus on my boudoir page. I am gearing more towards boudoir. I just love that feeling of having women feel comfortable in their skin. I know it's something that I've been having a hard time tapping into, or feeling comfortable, just being myself, I guess, because it's normal to feel sexy, want to feel sexy. I don't know if that's the right word, but I just want women to feel beautiful in their own skin. And so if you're in the DFW area in Texas, if you ever come and visit, I am Mexicana, so I do speak Spanish. So
if you want to hire Arlin, or even fly her out, she also can travel. But if you want to go to the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, then you can work with her as well.
Yes, it is truly a transformative experience. I've had several boudoir sessions, and every one of them I find them very healing. And they also, it just makes me discover a different side of myself. So that's why I really want to push this our page out, because I feel like it has a lot of value.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. I love what you're doing. I think what you're helping women do is reclaim their power and their sensuality. And I think sensuality and sexuality have been so associated with shame, which is complete bullshit, when women are very powerful. And when it comes to, Angelina was talking about sacral chakra, right? And manifesting through your sacral chakra. Well, that's literally you're tapping into people's sacral chakra through the boudoir, which it's like another form of healing. So I love it. I feel like both of you are helping bring people back to themselves and help bringing people back to their own power. And I'm just so honored and lucky that you're both in the program. And I hope that you found today's episode helpful. And I'm going to see you all when? I'm going to see you all tomorrow. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz, that's Erica with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.